Hey guys, how's it going? It's Liam Sheriff here with video 5 and principle 5 of this fat loss series. Today we're going to discuss sleep. Sleep is definitely one of the most neglected principles of fat loss, but also in terms of general health. People who don't get sufficient sleep put their body at severe stress, okay? And they also put them at risk of under-recover, under-repair and weight gain as well. So if you're really struggling with your fat loss at the moment and you're not sleeping very well, and that could be the reason why. So the first thing that we're going to do is just ascertain sort of your sleep pattern and decide whether or not you're actually getting enough sleep at night, or whether you're sleeping at the right times, for example. And so we're going to start with a little quiz. So in the last 7 days alone, how many times have you got to sleep before 10:30? If it's any less than 5, then you're at severe risk of disrupting your circadian rhythm of cortisol, which regulates your sleep, and you're basically at risk of not getting the sufficient repair and recovery that your body needs. Number 2, how often do you feel the need to have a nap during the day or during the afternoon? Okay, if you're feeling the sudden urge to sleep, or you're falling asleep at your desk at work, or if you're just sitting around and you're falling asleep, then you definitely have a disruption to your sleep cycle, because we're not meant to sleep during the day. We're meant to be up, we're meant to be active, we're meant to be doing things essentially during the day. So again, how often do you drink caffeine? Now, we spoke extensively about caffeine in the last video, which was stress control, but of course caffeine disrupts your sleep cycle as well, because it keeps you up, keeps you overstimulated for prolonged periods of time, which will inevitably impact on the quality but also the length of which you can sleep at night. So how many times have you said this to yourself? I've had X amount of sleep, but I'm still tired. Okay, it's one of the biggest, not gripes if you like, but definitely one of the biggest problems for most people, that they feel as though they can just have one super long nap or sleep for maybe 16 hours even, and yet you still feel tired. No matter how long you sleep, if you're not sleeping consistently at the same time, and it's not regular and it's not efficient, then a one-off 16-hour sleep isn't going to make you feel any better. Okay, once we lose sleep, it's gone for good. So it's important to make it consistent, that we get sufficient sleep every single day. And how often do you get your 8 hours? More importantly than simply getting the 8 hours is sleeping between the right times, which you're going to talk about in a moment. But as a general rule, around 8 hours is a good level of sleep when we come to discuss the rhythm in which your sleep cycle works. Okay, so we've seen this diagram before, and it's the circadian rhythm of cortisol, our stress hormone, which is also our sleep regulator. Cortisol here is in red, and as you can see, in the ideal world, if you like, or the perfect scenario, cortisol would start peaking around 6 in the morning to rise with sun, particularly in the summer, and it wants to go up to its highest point around 10 in the morning until it starts to peter and tail off sort of post midday. Then towards sort of 6 at night, it should be pretty low before winding down around 10, where it should be at its lowest, allowing melatonin, which is your sleep repair and regrowth hormone, to come and take over. Unfortunately, this is definitely more of the case. Now again, we've seen this before, and we know that if you're stressed, or if your body's under stress, then your hormones are literally going to be all over the place. Okay, so cortisol isn't going to tail up to 9-10 o'clock in the morning, or even a midday, and it's not going to come down quickly. It's going to be stressed all day, and the general 24-hour sleep cycle of being awake and being asleep is completely disrupted. Now the big problem that we have is that this disruption obviously leads further beyond 10 o'clock. So we're genetically sort of developed, if you like, and created to sleep from around 10 at night, so 10:30 at night. If you're not getting to sleep because you're so stressed, or you're drinking stimulants and you're keeping yourself awake, then you're going to cut into your physical and psychological repair process. Naturally, if you're not repairing and you're not recovering properly, then you're going to wake up very tired, you're going to have aching limbs, you're going to be sore, and you're just going to not have any energy to do anything. And in terms of psychological, you're going to be moody, you're going to have mood swings, you're going to be very sort of irritable, and probably just generally unhappy. So any disruption to your circadian rhythm, which this basically illustrates what most of us encounter in the 21st century, definitely has a massive impact on your health, your sleep, but also your fat loss. So what's the three biggest disruptors to your sleep then? Number one, without question, is definitely stimulants, okay? Things like caffeine, sugar and cigarettes are our three biggest and most harmful stimulants. If you have these three together on your morning break, for example, at work, then you're pretty much certain to mess up your overall circadian rhythm. Interestingly, caffeine has been known to have a half-life of up to 6 hours, which basically means that cortisol, in effect, is sky high for 6 hours after drinking your coffee, or whether it's your tea or your energy drink, whichever it is that contains the caffeine. Although some studies argue that caffeine can affect your cortisol levels for up to 16 hours. Now, consider you wake up at, say, 8 AM in the morning, for argument's sake, and you would generally be up for 16 hours-ish before you get another 8 hours at night. Technically, you could be awake and storing fat for the full amount of time that you're actually out of bed. Yeah, so if you drink caffeine first thing in the morning, it's potential that you're storing fat for the full day. So as long as you're awake, you're storing fat. So where you can, remove stimulants, but be careful. Bring them down sort of 1 cup each day, because if you do just go cold turkey, as with all sort of addictive substances, you will encounter withdrawals. So number 2 disruptor is definitely light, or electromagnetic pollution, to give its correct name. As a general population, obesity rates have increased in direct correlation to technological advances. So basically, the longer we can stay awake due to technology, the fatter we seem to be getting. If cortisol itself is actually stimulated and regulated by light, predominantly sunlight, but now obviously artificial light, imagine how much cortisol you're producing late at night watching television with the light on, when cortisol is meant to be at its lowest. Yeah. Consider as well the difficulty of getting back to sleep after the late night toilet trip, or on a bright summer's day if you get woke up by something. So basically, too much light at the wrong time of the day will definitely disrupt your sleep cycle and basically cause you to store more fat. Entrainment, or newly synchronized cycles. Now this is a relatively new concept, and scientists believe that we can actually become accustomed or synchronized to a new man-made circadian rhythm of cortisol in little as 3 weeks. So if you're a night owl, or you're on night shift, or you work through the night or late at night, and you basically don't get to sleep when you're meant to on a night for 3 weeks solid, then your body may actually respond to this in a negative way by delaying the response of lowering cortisol and increasing melatonin, so inevitably keeping your body awake at the time when it should be going to sleep. Basically, you should be sleeping and whilst you're and repairing whilst your body is deliberately keeping you awake. Okay, so it's essentially fighting against itself. So you're trying to be active and do things when your body's meant to be asleep and repairing and regrowing. And basically, any delayed response cuts into repair time, and hence you always feel like rubbish the next morning. So what's the direct fat loss effect? Very little, to be honest. I've known clients who single-handedly have trebled their results by simply getting more sleep. An overstressed body has high cortisol levels, and we know the profound effect of cortisol in terms of fat storage. And your body simply becomes reluctant to relinquish fat, because don't forget, any sleep or lack of sleep is viewed by your body as a form of stress, and any stress will prevent your body from relinquishing the fat cells, because we use fat as a survival source. You naturally get higher insulin levels. Again, we're going to discuss insulin in greater detail in Principle 6 in the next video, but insulin, rather like cortisol, is a storage hormone. Okay, so insulin is responsible for storing nutrients but also energy as well. But too many nutrients and too much energy, then they're going to end up in your fat cells. Okay, so we don't want insulin levels too high at all. You're going to get poor recovery after training. Okay, so if you get sort of DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness, or basically the soreness that you feel after a workout, maybe usually the day or two after, this is going to persist and prolong with people who have poor sleep quality. Okay, so get your sleep if you want to recover quick. So my top tips for sleep is this: make it as regular as you possibly can. The easiest way to fix this is just to pick a time that suits you. 10 or 10:30 PM till 6 AM is generally the best. Okay, and sleep that way for at least 7 days, or at least 5 of the 7 days. Okay, and stick to it religiously. As we said, follow the clock as best you can. But generally speaking, an hour before midnight is worth around 2 after. So if you're asleep an hour before midnight, it's generally equivalent quality to 2 hours after midnight. Number 3, minimize your light exposure as much as you can. Make sure everything is turned off correctly. Get as dark curtains as you possibly can. Avoid doing things like using your phone in the dark or reading before bed. If you are going to read something that's non-related to work and use the smallest lamp you possibly can with low light, okay? So many different ways to obviously reduce light exposure. You know, just use a bit of common sense to actually work out what you can do to minimize the light on your room there. Avoid stimulants, as we've talked about. If you want to realign your circadian rhythm, I'm afraid they have to go completely, but don't forget just to take yourself off them gradually. And listen to your body as well, something that most people don't do. If you are feeling tired and groggy and generally run down all the time, it's probably because you are that. Okay, so rest when you feel tired and train when you feel strong. And number 6, well, at least it should say number 6, don't dismiss the advice that I give you regarding sleep until you've tried it. Okay, I've did many trials in terms of fat loss, but the most profound sort of trial that I had and the best result I had was just by simply changing my sleep. I felt 100 times better. Okay, so try it for at least 5 to 7 days, and you honestly won't believe the difference that it makes. So that's it.